Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
I want to jump right into this, AKAPAD. So welcome back, Peter A. DeLuca here, the Film Buff Podcast. We're talking Fantastic Four 2015. I call it Fantastic Four 2015 out of respect. The people who have lost their minds, that have failed to watch movies, to really watch the film, call this movie FANT4STICK because of a part of the advertising, and they like to crap on the movie and they call it FANT4STICK. But anyone calls this movie FANT4STICK, you know where they're coming from. I call this movie Fantastic Four 2015. I am hoping this is a trend that starts with this podcast, because guess what we're doing, AKAPADers? We're infecting people. People are listening. They're even watching. They're paying attention. I get emails from publicity agents now. I get PR firms reaching out to me wanting to have some directors and screenwriters on. They think it would be good if I explained it. I got agencies looking and watching. Am I talking to some of them? Yes. Will things happen? I don't know. I have requirements. I'm not, again, I'm not just going to sign over the show. But people want to roll in advertising. They like the numbers. They like me. All of these things. So if this show matters, if it's going to affect people, let this movie be known as Fantastic Four 2015. 8 years after Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. It's also a little bit of a SHIT test. If you're talking Fantastic Four superhero movies with people and they bring this movie up, you know who they are. But if you're the first one to bring it up and you call it Fantastic Four 2015, that's the SHIT test, because you get to see if they know what you're talking about. If you call it FANT4STICK, they'll know. But calling it Fantastic Four 2015, well, we're cooking with gas. As you can tell from my tone, my friends, we like this movie. We like this movie a lot. I've seen it about 4 times, and years have transpired between watching this movie. What you'll hear is a repeat from the initial publicity, or the down publicity. Michael B. Jordan is the Human Torch. He is African American. Kate Mara, who I love, I always go to Netflix's House of Cards for her. Excuse me, sorry guys. She's Sue Storm, and this is where the movie broke. It broke before it got seen. This casting destroyed the movie, and I don't know why. Kate Mara is supposed to be the sister of the Human Torch, Johnny Blaze. And we get this idea that that's impossible because one's black and one's white. But we get to see the father behind some of this, right? So we're Black Op, Area 51 type, X-Files type stuff. But we have a room full of men with military contracts. All this cool covert stuff that we just like seeing. Well, they're talking about funding and the Baxter Building and the Baxter projects, and these young minds can maybe develop or explore this type of technology or do these things, and we have to get them funding. And along the way, this guy adopts Sue Storm. So there you go. She's adopted. Sue Storm is adopted on Johnny Storm's African American side. We got to do something different, AKAPADers, because they did a lot of things right in Fantastic Four 05, the animated series 06. Again, that's an episode, but people forget about that. In 07. So it's almost like you had this run of years of the Fantastic Four being in the public eye. Like 3 to 4 years of Fantastic Four being there. And they couldn't get past Rise of the Silver Surfer. So this Josh Trank guy comes along, who's a incredible minded filmmaker. Like, what else, right? We know him from Chronicle. Isn't it crazy? Everyone attached to the making of Chronicle has somewhat derailed or had their careers derailed, but it's Chronicle. 3 years later, Fantastic Four, which seems to be a really perfect fit. And 2000, 5 years later, he edits, but also writes and directs Capone. That kind of, like, we want to say potential Oscar bait there. There were high hopes for Capone, and Capone didn't do so well. Capone lost maybe $19 million. Josh Trank has not had a good Hollywood life. Disney first wanted him for Boba Fett, legendary outing. He was developing the Boba Fett movie as they were making this movie based on the excitement for the movie. And a lot of things went wrong that came out to the press. And you want to say, is it coming from the movie, or is it coming from the studio, or are these legit leaks? It's hard to tell because like movies get developed and released in secret all the time. So you do always question when things come out, but it became sensational. And Disney drops Josh Trank, and already just talking to you about the 2015 Fantastic Four. I'm subject to, like, I want to talk to you guys about the movie, and it's like I gotta explain this crap. But Josh Trank gets pulled from the Boba Fett movie, and I think that kind of what's left over from that became Mandalorian, and maybe what's left over from that became Book of Boba Fett. Film production is like that sometimes, where even the director can leave a project, but you have these like pieces that people know are going to work because they've been like workshopped in particular ways. Rarely do projects get completely overhauled when new talent comes aboard the project, and this is a little bit of the development process, development hell. But again, this is a factory mentality when it comes to producing, as you know, the keyword content. So Josh Trank is heralded for this movie. Like, people are behind it. Disney is behind it. This movie is also produced by Simon Kinberg and Matthew Vaughn. And Matthew Vaughn coming off of his reboot. And people give him like little credit, but he saved the X-Men franchise, guys, with X-Men First Class. But Kingsman, again, like, goes from there to Kingsman. Kingsman itself has become its own franchise, which is amazing. Like, again, like, absolutely amazing. But Vaughn's one of the guys. He's one of the premier Hollywood filmmakers, and he makes he makes good stuff. Let's just look at it. Do we have a bad Vaughn movie? Argyle. Maybe his most maligned. A lot of people didn't connect with Argyle. I thought, we have yet to discuss it. I thought it was there. Kingsman's there. Look, dude, he directs this trilogy: Kingsman, Secret Service, Golden Circle, and the Kingsman. Kingsman, a little bit, right? Doesn't quite hit, but it does make its money back. Kingsman, Golden Circle, $400 million. So, Layer Cake, good. Stardust, good. Kick ass, awesome. The Debt, he's a writer for that. I think I've seen this. Then it's X-Men First Class, and then he creates this like franchise with Kingsman. He's produced a chunk of movies. So like this, you have a guy who most likely was developing this movie and handed it over to Josh Trank. And Josh Trank is from one of the most original found footage movies that we've ever seen, called Chronicle. So all these things start coming out about the movie. The movie gets derailed, and then the context of the movie gets flabbergasted, or gets blown up into like this other, like the way how this movie is manipulated, and the perception of it is manipulated, is striking. And I think it's a little bit of a cautionary tale, because we get all of these elements that make sense. The formation of these four scientists. We have a Jamie Bell here that works within the confines of the group, because the Ben Grimm character is always kind of just like he never feels like he belongs with the group. But they would make him a test pilot, they would make him like a bodyguard. They've done all of these things with Ben Grimm, and none of it seems to quite work, because he's not a Reed Richards. And then we have the Johnny Storm, and Johnny Storm isn't Sue. So how does Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm and even Sue Richards get involved with this giant experiment that Reed Richards is doing? Again, these are the problems from Fantastic Four, but Josh Trank solves it. Reed's independent. He's a Bill Gates. We have his counter, the Steve Jobs. Victor Von Doom. Doom is his own line name. I remember people trashing that. Played by Toby Kebbell, who is great. So they're rivals. Kebbell has a relationship with the Baxter Foundation, the Baxter family, but they recruit him because they're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to breach the negative zone. Perfect. And along the way, we have some help. Sue Storm, scientist, she's already working on the project. Jamie Bell gets recruited on the Reed Richards side. And Michael B. Jordan gets recruited pretty much on the foundation side. But everyone fits in what they're doing for this experiment. So they do this experiment, and they end up in the negative zone, and they come back with powers. And the negative zone is the real lore of Fantastic Four. It's what Reed discovers in the comics that needs to Annihilus. Annihilus leaves the negative zone, and like 30 years later, in real time, not comic book continuity time, they do this annihilation wave or annihilation storyline that brings together all of the Marvel cosmic characters. They're teasing that now for the next Fantastic Four movie, because Marvel wants to pull the trigger on Fantastic Four 2. That's what it looks like. The second steps, right? Not the first steps. So we also established the negative zone, and we have all these explanations for it. So they go to a negative zone, come back with powers. Victor Von Doom somewhat is tortured by this experience, and he's cast in iron and becomes a scanner villain. So there's a scene where he pretty much escapes the facility, escapes the hospital. Victor Von Doom is walking down the hallway, exploding heads. And then we have to get this resolution. Victor Von Doom wants to open up the portal, open up everything. We have yet another, we're just talking about, even in the Minecraft movie, there's a rod of lightning shooting into the sky. There's montages now on TikTok and YouTube that document all the movies that shoot something into the sky. But they have to stop him. He wants to open up the negative zone, and this new team with powers has to stop him. Along the way, we have the military kind of like experimenting with the thing. They're trying to weaponize these individuals. They're trying to weaponize the negative zone. There is a push and pull. Again, cloak and dagger, Black Ops type stuff. Really cool dark room things. And we get Miles Teller, who completely sells himself as a boy genius. We're introduced to Michael B. Jordan racing cars, like the perfect introduction for a Johnny Storm character. He's also a fantastic Johnny Storm. But we get a lot of people that come at this movie that don't pretend that these things were not necessary, that they didn't have to get done. What have we seen from this movie? We've seen a complete return. It's not even to center. They put the Fantastic Four in an alternate universe that nobody really wants, by the way. It's a 60s future universe that takes this long explanation. It's a universe that once Reed invents something, it doesn't evolve out of the 60s, and it's like a steampunk type thing. Steampunk never makes any sense ever. You just really have to like go with it. You just gotta convince yourself that, yeah, just go with it. But they're solely separate, not connected to anything. Reed's a inventor. He's a genius. But the movie doesn't catch on. So they modernize the movie in 2005. It doesn't catch on. Today, recently, they've put the movie in the 60s. It doesn't catch on. They've put the characters in the modern world. It's different from modernized, you know, like, but they're literally in the modern world in 2015. It's a young cast, good looking people, well shot. I just like how dark this movie is. That doesn't catch on. So it's like, what do you do? I really feel like Fox knew that they made this, like they kind of maybe like square peg, round hole this experiment, and Josh Trank was caught in the middle, like literally caught in the idea, the vision, what he was originally able to sell the movie on. The people who, again, like we have two fantastic producers who signed off on this movie. Simon Kinberg, Matthew Vaughn. Like you have to hold them a little bit accountable. But we have this darker tone, completely realistic take that fits, and also by the end of the movie leads into a broader world, more horizons, bigger possibilities. So what does the movie do at the box office? And people still bring this up. The budget is $120. It does $167. Okay, right? We can, maybe with advertising, we can say maybe the studio can pocket a few million. That's okay. But on Wiki, look, isn't it crazy? It grosses 160. I'm just, this is movie math makes no sense. We need like a national inquiry with movie math. Let's read Wikipedia. I just highlighted it here. Grossing 168 million worldwide against a production budget of 120 million, with an estimated loss of 80 to 100 million for the studio. How is marketing double the cost of the movie itself, where you're spending is marketing that expensive? I'm not saying it doesn't cost money. Is it that it's unfathomable? I dig this movie. I think you guys need to know that.
Okay, that's a wrap.